Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachak, Wadash, and double honors to our elders and apostles of GMS Great Millstone teaching real well. Shalom, shalom. All right, this is Brother Nabali here with another lesson. All right, and Donald Trump, man, President Trump, threatens, to invoke the Insurrection Act. All right. So, with that being said, I'm just going to get straight to the video. We're going to watch this video. We're going to read a few things on ChatGPT, all right, to get in more detail with the Insurrection Act is, get into some scriptures and, align the scriptures up, all right, with what's going on currently, all right.
A warning from President Trump to protesters in Minneapolis.
The president says that he may enact a rarely used law. Dick Brennan here in studio to explain. Dick?
Christine and Jessica, we can tell you Homeland Security says last night an ICE agent shot a Venezuelan migrant in the leg after they say he and two other men attacked a federal agent. Now President Trump is issuing a major threat.
A second ICE shooting in Minneapolis triggered more clashes between protesters and federal law enforcement. Now President Trump is threatening to send in the military, posting, "If the corrupt politicians of Minnesota don't obey the law and stop professional agitators and insurrectionists from attacking the patriots of ICE, who are only trying to do their job, I will institute the Insurrection Act." The act allows deployment of troops in the U.S. in limited situations. It was last invoked in 1992 during the L.A. riots when the governor requested it.
I think the president's True Social post spoke very loud and clear to Democrats across this country, elected officials who are using their platforms to encourage violence against federal law enforcement officers.
But many in Minneapolis say it's ICE that's causing the problems.
Many of our residents are out there legally observing the operations of our federal government to ensure that our constitutional rights are not getting violated. And what I'm seeing firsthand is our constitutional rights being violated.
The president's threat has triggered reaction around the country, including here in New York.
If ICE crosses the line and denies the constitutional rights of our residents, that there are consequences, that people should be able to hold them accountable.
Governor Hochul was touting her plan to keep ICE agents out of sensitive places like child care centers, places of worship, and hospitals.
We're saying no more. You may not walk into those places without a judicial order, literally meaning signed by a judge.
Now, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz is trying to get both sides to lower the tensions. He's asking demonstrators to protest peacefully and for the White House to back off with the threats. Christine and Jessica.
All right, Dick, thank you.
All right, so as we just seen, Donald Trump, man, he's threatening to invoke the Insurrection Act. All right, which we know, these situations that are going on here, are all, it's all planned. All right, it's all planned chaos, or that Esau, Edom, or the wicked elite, are putting forth out there. All right, to bring in, these different acts and these draconian laws. Okay, so let's get more into what an Insurrection Act is. All right, so I got it pulled up here in ChatGPT. Let me get it real quick. Let's get right here. All right, so this is what I wrote here in ChatGPT. All right, what is the Insurrection Act? All right, to get more detail of what it is. All right, it says the Insurrection Act is a U.S. federal law that allows the president to deploy active duty military or federalized National Guard troops inside the United States to deal with domestic unrest. It says when state or local authorities cannot or will not control it. All right. So that sounds like the book, of Second Edges 15 right there, man. The 16th verse, I believe. All right. And like I said before, we know that this is all controlled, man. This is controlled chaos. All right. So that gives Esau, Edom a reason to bring in, all right, these different, acts and these different, laws, man. Okay. It says, a basic purpose, it is an exception It is an exception to the general rule that the U.S. military cannot police civilians. That rule comes from the Paucis Comitatus Act. All right, it says what the president can do under the Insurrection Act. All right, the president may send troops to quell riots, uprisings, or widespread violence. All right, it says enforce federal law when states refuse to do so, protect constitutional rights if the state governments are unable or unwilling. All right. So, the president's able to send, troops, man, if there's uprisings, against the governments, man, widespread violence. All right. And he's threatening to invoke this act here in Minnesota. Okay. It says, when can it be used? It says the law allows action if a state requests help. All right. Riots or natural disasters and chaos. All right. It says federal law is being obstructed. It says citizen constitutional rights are being denied, and states won't fix it. All right. So from what we know, Donald Trump thinks that the cricket people, that are in Minnesota are pretty much inciting this violence. All right. So Donald Trump, is pretty much saying, hey, you guys want to incite this violence, I'm gonna, pretty much, invoke the Insurrection Act. All right. So we know that it's all set up, man. You got these governors, here in Minnesota. All right. Pretty much, inciting these, telling these civilians to fight back, and things like that. All right, so we could see, man. What does the scripture say? Is it First Corinthians 2:11? Matter of fact, let's get that. All right, we are not ignorant of Satan's devices, man. Let's get that. What is it? Is it 2 Corinthians? Let me see. 2. Is it 1 Corinthians 2:11? 2 and verse. No, it's like it's 2 Corinthians 2:11. All right. And it says here, it says, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. All right. So we see, Satan's, his plans, man. We see this devil, we see this devil, devil's plans from a mile away, man. All right. So, like the scripture says, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices, man. We're not ignorant. All right. We're not, blind to his, to his plans. All right. We see that, this is, controlled chaos. All right. Just for them to bring in, this, Insurrection Act. All right. So let's go back here. And it says, historical examples. All right, so in 1957, Little Rock, Arkansas, Eisenhower sent troops to enforce a school desegregation. The 1960s civil rights era, it says, used to protect so-called Black Americans from mob violence. 1992, in Los Angeles riots, George H.W. Bush deployed troops after massive unrest. All right, 2020, the nationwide unrest, Trump threatens to invoke it. The National Guard was widely used, but active duty troops were not fully deployed. All right. It says, let's see. Why it's controversial. It says it gives president a very broad power. It says no court approval is required beforehand. All right. See, no court approval is required for this, for Donald Trump. All right. To invoke. All right. This act. All right. It says critics fear it could be used to suppress protests, enforce martial law like conditions, and override state authority. All right, so man, Donald Trump, man, that's that cruel Lord spoken of in the book Isaiah 19. All right, that's that cruel Lord. That's the man right there to get the job done. All right, it says important distinctions. It says Insurrection Act and martial law. It says martial law suspends civilian rights. All right, because martial law, pretty much they pretty much give you curfews, or they put you on lockdowns and things like that. All right, it says rare and extreme. Said the Insurrection Act keeps civilian government but uses troops for enforcement. All right, so pretty much the difference between martial law, all right, and the Insurrection Act is pretty much, when you're on in martial law, you're in lockdowns, you got curfews. All right, won't be able to go from city to city, but the Insurrection Act pretty much, you still have your freedoms. All right, you can still go from city to city. All right, you can still stay out, do what you want, this and that, but the difference is that they got troops. All right, they got the troops. All right, pretty much enforcing, civil unrest. Enforcing peace, shall I say? All right. So that's pretty much what I wanted to get into here. All right, but hey, man, we're in those times. All right. So let's get the book of Second Esdras 9:1, and it says, he answered me then and said, measure thy times diligently in itself. All right. And it says, and when thou seest part of the signs past, which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the heights will begin to visit the world which he had made. All right. So, we're measured at times, man. All right. We're measured at times through these scriptures. All right. We're measured at times, man. The prophecies. Okay. We're seeing the times that we're in. All right, and we're measuring it, through these scriptures. All right, so we got to measure the times diligent in itself, and we know that we are in Jacob's trouble, man. Jeremiah 30:7. All right, let's get that. As a matter of fact, let's Salakia. I want to bring it out. All right, here I got my good news translation book. All right. Let's bring it out in the Good News translation right here. All right. I don't got it here on screen, but I'm going to bring it out here. This is Jeremiah 30. This is Jeremiah 30. Well, so as a matter of fact, let's pull it up. Let's pull it up here. Let's read it in the KJV first. Let's read in KJV first, and we'll read it in the Good News translation. All right, it says, at last, it says, that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. All right. So, Jacob trouble is going to continue to ramp up. All right, we're in the midst of Jacob's trouble now, but it's going to continue to escalate, and it's going to continue to get worse. All right. So this is in the G&T. It says, a terrible day is coming. It says, no other day can compare with it. It says, a time of distress for my people, but they will be saved out of it. All right. And who are the Lord's people, man? All right. His elect. All right. His elect are going to be saved out of it. So, that's what it's talking about when it says he should be saved out of it. His elect should be saved out of it. All right. So these are the times that we're in, man. All right. So we got to measure the times diligently in itself. All right. It's going to be a time like no other time. As it says in the book of Matthew 24, which, we should get. Let's get the book of Matthew 24 and 21. It says, for then shall there be great tribulations, such as was not since the beginning of the world until this time, no, nor ever shall be. All right. So the times that we're in, are not going to compare to the times that we've been through in our past, man. To the transatlantic slave trade. All right, being under slavery with the Pharaoh. All right, all those times are not going to compare of what's getting ready to take place. All right. So let's get the book of Matthew 24 right here in the Good News translation. All right. get it here in Matthew 24. Where's Mark? Matthew 24, here in the Good News Translation. 24 and 21. It says here, Salakia. It says 24 and 21. It says for the trouble at that time will be far more terrible. There you go. The trouble is going to be far more terrible than any there was ever been from the beginning of the world to this very day. You see, nor will there ever be anything like it. All right, so this is going to be trouble. It's going to be a time like never before. It's going to be a terrible time, Jake. That's coming up. All right, we're seeing more and more of these ICE agents. All right, pulling the trigger. All right, on the civilians, man. All right, and it's only going to continue to get worse, man. I believe I just read on the news that one of the ICE agents, pretty much shot a Venezuelan in the leg, man, and he got complete immunity to it, man. He's protected. All right, he's protected, man. All right. So therefore, the person that shot that Venezuelan in the leg, he could continue to do what he's doing without any consequences, man. All right, what does the scripture say? He is not in trouble as most men. All right, Esau Edom is not in trouble as most men. Let's get that. I believe it's in the book of Psalms. Let me see. Psalms, they are not in trouble. Yep, Psalm 75, 73 and 5. Matter of fact, I'm gonna highlight that. Salakia. All right, it says they are not in trouble as other men. It says neither are they plagued like other men. All right. You see, we're reading NLT. It says they don't have trouble like other people. They are not plagued with problems like everyone else. All right. So Esau Edom, man, he's not as trouble as other men, man. He got some immunity. All right. The other people, if it was the other way around, the other people did the same thing to these ICE agents, man, then they will be locked up. They'll be put into prisons, man. All right. And with full force persecution, man. All right. So these devils, man, they got the immunity. All right. And come to find out that ISIS is getting trained by these small hats, man. All right, that's why they don't give a shit, man. They don't give a shit, about these American citizens, man, because they're being trained by these small hats, man. They're being trained by these devils. All right. So there was a few more scriptures I wanted to get. All right, let's get the book of what was it? Second Esdras. What is it? 15, man. Let's get the book of Second Esdras 15. Then we're gonna jump to 16, and I'll end off with that. What is it? 15 verse 16. All right. We'll read it here in the KJV, and then we'll get it right here in the Good News Translation. All right. Second Esdras 15 verse 16, and it says, we'll start at 14. It says, woe to the world and them that dwell therein. It says, for the sword and the destruction draw nigh. All right, the sword and the destruction is near. It says, Salakia. It says, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands, man. All right, and that's civil unrest. All right, which we see what's going on out there in Minnesota. All right, which is why which is controlled. All right, but which is why Donald Trump wants to invoke this Insurrection Act. All right. It says, for there shall be sedition among men, invading one another, and shall not regard the kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their hand. All right. And it says, a man shall desire to go into city and city and shall not be able to, because eventually, if Donald Trump, invokes, this Insurrection Act, it's eventually, going to, lead into the martial law. All right. That's what eventually is going to lead into. It's going to lead into martial law, man. So, once he invokes the martial law, you won't be able to travel, from city to city. All right. It says, for because the part of the cities shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid, man. All right. You got these military men, being mad men, sparing none, going and destroying people's, property, breaking into their houses, and, taking them, taking them into, to these prisons, destroying their belongings, their goods, but, you know, you know, sedition among men. Sedition means, there's going to be rebellion, against the governments, man. All right, it's going to be rebellion, against the governors. Okay, the governors are those, that run, these different cities. Okay, the kings, of these different cities, the governors. All right. So sedition, man, it's going to be a bunch of rebellion to the point, Donald Trump is going to have to, call in, the military, all right, because, your local law enforcement can't control it, all right. Your local law enforcement can't control it. Your governors can't control it, all right. So, it's only going to continue to intensify from here, all right. Let's get it in the Good News translation, which I have right here, all right. Um, We'll start at 14. This is 2nd Esdras 15 and 14. It says the world and the people in it are doomed. All right. It says the war that will bring the destruction is very near. It says nations will arm themselves and fight against other nations, man. These people are going to arm themselves, man. People are going to have, different, guns, knives, whatever they could get their hands on that's a weapon, man. It says there will be great political turmoil. You see, political turmoil with one group trying to overpower another and gain control. Okay, so this is pretty much, the government, versus, the Babylonians versus civilians, man. The government's trying to, gain control, over, these Babylonians, man. It says trying to take over power, trying to take over power another and gain control. It says while ignoring the legitimate government. Okay. It says there will no longer be free access to cities because the struggle for power will bring destruction, terror, and total confusion wherever people live. Okay. So, it's going to be a political turmoil here, in Babylon the Great. All right. Donald Trump, he has that power to totally, bypass, the, the civilian laws, man. All right. He has that power. All right. That's that man right there. All right. Um, let's get 2nd Esdras 16 in verse 71. We'll read it here in the KJV. It says, they shall be like madmen, sparing none. They are Esau, Edom. All right. The wicked, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. It says, for they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their homes. Then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as the fire of gold. All right. So Esau, Edom, man, in that time, man, he's going to be a madman, sparing none. He's going to be, kicking doors down. All right. Locking people up. All right. Pretty much ravaging their homes. All right. Ravaging the women. All right. This is the times that we're in, but in that time, only the elect are going to stand firm. All right. In that time, the elect are going to continue to keep their faith. All right. In that time of tribulation. All right. Then you will know who is Yahweh Shemashah's chosen. All right. Because they're going to stand firm. They're going to keep their faith, man. They're not going to lose their faith. All right. They're going to continue to endure until the end. All right. So let's read 2nd Ezra 16 here in the GNT that I got here in my GNT book. It says, in many places near the cities, there will be violent persecutions against those who fear Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Right, violent persecutions, man. All right, and Donald Trump is going to be the one to allow that to happen, especially if he invokes his Insurrection Act. All right, it says the attackers will act like wild people. All right, they will plunder and destroy without pity all those who still fear Yahweh Shem Shai. They're not going to have any pity. They're not going to have any remorse, man. All right, it says they will turn them out of their homes and take away all their possessions, man. All right, people are going to, get kicked out of their home. People are going to have to be pilgrims on this earth. Okay. It says there will be a time of testing, all right, which, it's going to be a time of testing, all right, for my chosen people, and they will prove to be pure and refined as gold, all right. Might as well just read 74. It says, but listen to what Yahweh Shem Shai says. It says, my chosen people, the time of trouble, suffering is near, but I will rescue you. Don't be afraid or have any doubts. I am your power and I will lead you, man. All right. So, in that time, man, like I said, man, his chosen people are going to have to go, through a testing. All right. Then you will know who are my chosen, man. It's going to be a time of severe testing, man, of heavy testing in that time. All right. But only the elect are going to endure. All right, and going to fight through it. All right, and continue to keep their faith. All right, in that time. All right. So, Donald Trump, man. Hey, he's planning to invoke. Lord's will. He invokes it. That Insurrection Act. All right, Lord's will. But with that being said, I just pray that this lesson was edifying to you, brothers and sisters out there. And I hope I wasn't all over the place. But with that being said, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachakwadash. Double honors to our elders and the apostles of GMS, the Great Millstone. Once again, this is the Bible until the next lesson. Shalom.